Okay, so I'm going to do a quick tip for today and show you guys a trick with my outfits. A customer recently got in touch with me and was having problems with a third-party morph. Um, Now, obviously, third-party I don't necessarily support. Actually, I don't really support at all. I only support DAZ morphs. But that doesn't mean that you still can't use it. So the trick that I'm going to show you today is actually to do with rigidity. All my clothing has rigidity on it because it's armor. It tends to be armor. And even the cloths to some degree, because this is me trying to keep the morphs and the corrective morphs cleaner so that there's less distortion and then there's less warping. You'll notice that I have like little bits and bobs and stuff on my clothing, like these little rings here. If I don't put rigidity on it, those will get completely destroyed by some of these morphs. And to a degree that there's no like ironing it out. So rigidity actually helps salvage some of my finer details. The plate, so that it doesn't distort too much, because plate doesn't distort. And even the cloth, because sometimes cloths tend to crunch if you don't have rigidity on them. And ironing it out, is one of those things. Sometimes it works and sometimes it's not so clean. So rigidity is just something that I tend to use a lot with all of my sets. The problem though is that I leave it on there purposely so that it doesn't distort. And when you use a third party set, you'll notice that sometimes the rigidity will actually cause things to happen that wouldn't necessarily happen if the rigidity was gone. It would cause the breastplate to grow abnormally large because of the way rigidity works. Sometimes it pushes them out and it scales them up too much to match the morph. Other times, it might actually fit pretty close. And of course, if you're savvy, you can do corrective morphs yourself. But the problem is that not everybody is savvy and knows how to do that. So this tutorial is going to show you how to remove rigidity so that you can get closer to what you need to do with a third-party morph. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to demonstrate with a morph that I've actually supported, which is breast implants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it off the breastplate so you can see what rigidity does when there's not a supporting morph there to catch it, that I've, corrected myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to delete this, and you can see it automatically disappears, but that's just as if it had none. And I'm going to clear the generated morphs. So this is what it would look like if the morph wasn't supported and the rigidity was kicking it. Now, if you look close here, you can actually see where I have selected a certain amount of vertices, a certain portion of this breastplate here, to be a part of the rigidity group to keep it rigid. And you can see where the issues lie. It starts to sink the breastplate into the breast because it needs a corrective morph. It crunches the straps here and here, and these are all part of the rigidity group as well, because I have these little rings here that need to stay rigid as well. So this is not acceptable. This would obviously not work. And then, some third-party morphs may even make this worse. So, like, you could say, this is not so terrible. I might be able to fix this with an adjustment morph. And you can absolutely try, because I do put a lot of adjustment morphs in. But there's an even better way to try to get this right, and that is to remove the rigidity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to click this button. This is the geometry editor. And I'm going to come over here to my tool tab and I'm going to click it. Now, you may not actually have the tool settings tab on your UI, because I'm a developer, so I automatically have a certain amount of tabs loaded onto my UI that I use the most. These are for quick access. But if you're, a beginner, or you're, just kind of, play around with DS, you might not have this UI set up like this. So if you need to find this tab, you're going to come up to Window, Panes and Tabs, and then you're going to load the tool settings here. Once you click this, it'll actually load as a floating window in your UI. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and click this. And when you click this, this is going to be your default window. This is where it's going to open to. This is actually where you need to go, though, because this is where the rigidity editor is. So you're going to click that, and you see, here is my rigidity. When you select one of these, you'll see that I have selected a certain portion of the outfit, or the breastplate, I should say, to participate in this rigidity group. This is telling DS to keep this part rigid while keeping the rest normal. So all I'm going to do to get rid of this is remove it, just like that. And then I'm going to come back to my scene tab, and I'm going to click up in this corner here, and I'm going to clear the generated morphs. Now you can see DS has auto-generated over here the breast implants morph again. And you can see that this is much better than what the rigidity would give you if you had left it. All the crunching is gone, and actually this is not too bad. Even if I hadn't supported this, this would actually be fairly fine for render. There's not too much stretching, there's not too much crunching going on. So this would be, this would be a perfectly fine thing that you could use to render, which you couldn't do if you left rigidity on it. Obviously, your mileage may vary because this is not the third-party morph in question. So, should you remove the rigidity and you still have issues, you still have adjustment morphs that you can use to kind of tweak it and make it a little bit better. How well that will work is, one of those things you're just going to have to try it and see. And as I said earlier, if you're savvy, you can always do a corrective morph. But a lot of people, they don't necessarily have ZBrush, or they don't necessarily know how to do all that. So it just depends on your experience level and whether or not you want to tangle with that. But, and that's, not something that I'm going to cover in this video per se. But, anyway, I just wanted to kind of show that rigidity can hold you back as much as it can help you in certain situations. It's a situational thing. You really gotta, see how it's going to play up and see which way it's going to work the best and kind of roll with it. But, if you ever have a third-party morph and it's not working with something of mine, definitely check the rigidity and remove it, because if you do so, you may have a pretty perfectly working thing here, without it, that would have been perfectly acceptable for your render. So that's my quick tip for today, and I hope it helped. I'll see you guys next time.